My name's Scott Pleasance, and I'm actually, in Chick-fil-A world, we call ourselves owner-operators, and I'm the owner-operator at Chick-fil-A Alliance in Presidio. Anybody ever visited those two locations? If you haven't, that's okay. But anyway, so we've been in Alliance for 7 years. We just opened our Presidio location about a year and a half ago, right across the highway there. And I've actually been with Chick-fil-A 11 years total. So that's kind of where I am currently in my Chick-fil-A career. Let's see, just a little background information on me before Chick-fil-A. So I went to Texas A&M University. I grew up in the Metroplex, always kind of grew up around Dallas-Fort Worth. Went to Texas A&M. Thank you very much. Yeah, anybody want to whoop with us? And then moved back up here. Married my college sweetheart shortly after that, and we've been married, believe it or not, 25 years in April. That's hard to believe, but we have two boys, and so I spent personally there, but professionally I spent about 15 years in another industry altogether. I worked kind of in the corporate world, actually in the golf industry. I love golf, and worked for two different corporations in the golf world for 15 years. But really came to a point in my life, I was about 35 years old, and decided that I really wanted to own my own business. And had several family members who had started their own businesses, who owned their own restaurants or construction or different types, and just saw a lot of benefit and saw some of the things that they were able to do and some of the freedoms they had and some of the challenges they were able to address, and became interested in that and realized that I was at a point in my career that I wanted something different, something more. So that's kind of, I'll tell how I got to Chick-fil-A in just a moment, but a little history about Chick-fil-A. Anybody Chick-fil-A raving fans in this group? Yeah? No? Okay, we gotta get y'all some chicken biscuits and some Chick-fil-A sandwiches. So y'all, yeah, I didn't think about that. Maybe the next class will bring. Yeah. But so Chick-fil-A, as far as anybody know who started Chick-fil-A? Anybody have any thoughts on who started Chick-fil-A? Well, the gentleman's name, Truett Cathy. He started his first restaurant. It wasn't called Chick-fil-A. He started his first restaurant in 1946, and it's actually called the Dwarf House. It's in Atlanta. It's actually still there today. It looks a little different than it did in 1946, but you can go visit the original restaurant that he had. Had that restaurant for about 20 years, very small. He called it the Dwarf House because it could only seat about 20 people inside. But it was a 24-hour diner. It served hamburgers, it served steaks, it served a full menu. There was no such thing as a chicken sandwich at that point, but it was just a regular diner type restaurant. But one unique thing about Chick-fil-A, and I think you guys are all aware of this, is the very first week that they were open, 24 hours, he and his brother owned the business. He would work a 12-hour shift, and then his brother would come in, and Truett would go to the back and go sleep in the back, and his brother would work a 12-hour shift. And then the bell would ring, and Truett would wake up, and he'd go to the front, and his brother would go sleep in the back. And they did this the whole first week they were open. Well, Saturday came, and they realized this is crazy. There's no way we can keep this schedule up. We haven't been home. We haven't seen our families. We're exhausted. And so the very first Sunday that they were open, they decided to close. They said, hey, you know what? Let's close. We'll go home at midnight on Saturday. We'll get a good day of rest. We'll go to church. We'll get to see our kids. And then we'll open back up Monday morning. So that was the very first Sunday, and Chick-fil-A's been closed every Sunday since 1946. So that was one of the critical decisions they made in their business, and they've stood by that for a very long time. So that's 1946. We fast forward to about 1967. And Truett had been playing around with this chicken sandwich. Believe it or not, nobody had a boneless chicken breast sandwich like you know today. No other restaurant, no other chain was doing that. And he kind of started working on this recipe. He perfected it. Took it to some trade shows and food shows, and it was well received. And he decided, you know what, I need to do something with this sandwich because it's such a big hit in my restaurant, it could probably stand on its own. So, now I want y'all to be thinking about Truett as an entrepreneur and a business owner and a guy with a lot of vision. So that was his first thought. Hey, I created this sandwich. He saw a missing segment of the market. A lot of hamburger places at that time, but he saw a missing segment that could be utilized. So he created something to fill that void. Okay, so that's the first great thing that Truett did. Secondly, he realized the potential, and so he went out and he addressed Greenbrier Mall in Atlanta. Now, malls today, they're everywhere. Every major city has them, but malls really started like in the late 50s. So in 1967, malls were like brand new. It was a new concept. And so he went to the mall, and believe it or not, there were no food courts in malls. There were no restaurants in malls at that time, nothing. They were just for retail, clothing, and stuff of that nature. Truett addressed the owners at Greenbrier Mall and said, I want to open a restaurant in your mall. And they politely said, no. We don't want food in our mall. Food is, it smells, it's messy, people will eat trash. Food attracts pests and rodents. We don't want any of that in our mall. But he was persistent. So that was another thing about being an entrepreneur. He was committed to what he was wanting to do and the vision that he had, and he was persistent with it. And he kept asking and kept asking. And finally he figured out, you know what? I'll convince them that we should have a restaurant in the mall, because if someone is in the mall and they have the ability to stop and eat, what will they do at your mall? Anybody know? Anyone? If you're at a mall and you're hungry and there's no place to eat, what do? You have to leave the mall. And you probably don't come back. And he said, you know what? If these guys and these families can stay and eat, they'll stay at your mall longer. And if they stay at your mall longer, they'll spend more money. And they were like, great idea. So he opened up the very first, and this is when he actually branded the name Chick-fil-A, in Greenbrier Mall, 1967. Greenbrier Mall is still there in Atlanta. It's a very small mall, but it's still there. Chick-fil-A is still there, so you can go visit the very first original Chick-fil-A. Looks a little different, it's a lot bigger, but it's always a great thing to go kind of see where it all started. So that was the second thing. So he's an entrepreneur, but he's also an innovator. Created the chicken sandwich. That first concept restaurant in a mall started the food court. So he took Chick-fil-A to another mall, and he took Chick-fil-A to another mall, and then other restaurants said, hey, we need to kind of get in on this action as well. And so they went and said, hey, can we open this burger place or whatever. So the food court essentially was created by Truett. Okay? So that's pretty awesome when you think about that, because every mall in America, every mall probably in the world has a food court now. So that was one innovation that Chick-fil-A and Truett pioneered. Quick side story actually, and I'll tell you about this in a little while, but I had the opportunity through Chick-fil-A to go to Russia 2 different times to do some mission work over there. And our first day we were there, we always met at a mall to meet our team and everything like that. And we met in a food court. And so I'm in Russia eating Russian food, and I'm like, this food court is in this mall because in 1967, Truett had a vision to do something different that no one had ever thought about doing. Okay? That's pretty awesome when you're doing things that affect businesses across the world. So where we are today, oh yeah, some other innovations. So chicken sandwich, he also created the waffle fry. Believe it or not, no restaurants were doing waffle fries at that point. They were just all standard French fries. So that was his creation. The ice cream, anybody enjoy our ice cream or milkshakes? Okay, that's actually Truett's personal recipe. Okay, and years ago, every store would actually mix that recipe in store and then freeze it and make their ice cream in store. It's too big now, we sell too much, so we have someone else do that, but it's still Truett's recipe. So Truett was a great entrepreneur, an innovator, very persistent, and committed to what he believed in. Okay? He also was a very hard worker. He passed away 3 years ago in September at 93 years old. And really up until the last year of his life when his health started failing, he was at the home office probably 3 or 4 days a week working, making decisions. He opened a new restaurant, a new concept restaurant called Truett's Luau, like when he was 92. Just a totally new concept restaurant that he opened. So he was a hard worker, and he always believed in doing his very best. So fast forward where we are today, Chick-fil-A is the largest chicken chain or chicken concept restaurant in America. Not by number of restaurants. Okay, we have about 2,200 restaurants around the country, but in total volume. So Kentucky Fried Chicken has about 5,000 restaurants, and some other places have 5,000 restaurants, but total volume of sales, Chick-fil-A surpasses those guys with half the restaurants and only open 6 days a week. Okay, so that's something that we are proud of and excited for. 2,200 locations. This year we're going to be about $8.5 billion in sales throughout the United States. We have a goal to hit $10 billion by 2020, and we're on that pace to do that. We're in about 43 states around the country, in the lower 48, probably be in all lower 48 within the next 3 or 4 years. We also have a task force working to do international locations. So we have no Chick-fil-A's currently internationally, but the home office has a group working on figuring that out. So maybe one day if you go to London or Paris or something like that, you'll see a Chick-fil-A on the street. They actually opened a concept restaurant in London for 1 week just to see how it would be received. They rented a space, took equipment, product, and did a pop-up store, opened Chick-fil-A for 1 week. It was a huge success, so they just wanted to test the waters. A portion of Chick-fil-A that people don't even realize exists. Okay, so Truett, at his heart, was an entrepreneur, but that was his business side. But at his heart, he was one of the most kind, generous, compassionate men you would ever know. He loved people, he loved kids, and he wanted to take the success he had and the influence he had and do things for others. So through Chick-fil-A, he created a division called WinShape. It started out as WinShape Foster Homes. He loved kids. He knew there were kids in the Atlanta area who didn't have parents, and so he opened a foster home. Fully licensed, sanctioned foster home, a mom and a dad foster parent. It went to 2 homes, it went to 3 homes. Now they have about 10 or 11 homes, well over 100 kids who go through their foster program. That has spawned WinShape camps, and we actually host a WinShape camp here in the Fort Worth area every year. We had about 250 kids come to camp last year. We have WinShape marriage retreats, so couples can go to Atlanta and spend a 3, 4, or 5 day retreat working on their marriage and trying to get reconciliation and strengthen their marriage. I mentioned WinShape International. They do about 30 mission trips around the world every year where they go and take a team of Chick-fil-A operators, Chick-fil-A home office staff, go to different countries to do mission work. So it's 7 different branches of this charitable group of WinShape that essentially are impacting and influencing lives around the country. Okay, so it wasn't all just about Truett becoming successful and having lots of restaurants and making lots of money. Truett said, I want to do something in a positive nature. Okay, so that's kind of where we are today. Any questions so far just about Truett or Chick-fil-A or our history or anything? Yes, Ms. Smith.
WinShape,
Yes, ma'am.
that is his charitable organization?
Correct.
Is it only for Chick-fil-A employees, or is that open to anyone who wants to?
No. So as far as, that's a great question. As far as, and the reason people haven't heard about WinShape is because it's fully and totally funded by the Cathy family. So one thing that I didn't mention is that Chick-fil-A is privately owned. So Truett started it, and the Cathy family still owns it. It's not a corporation, it is incorporated, but it's not a publicly traded company that you could buy stock in or anything like that. It's owned by the Cathy family. I believe, for you guys, maybe future business owners, if you create a business or you do something like that, I would say always stay private. That's just my personal opinion. When you become publicly traded and There's, yes, some potential money and capital that comes in on the front end, but now you are at the desire and the control of stockholders. You're like, hey, I invest a lot of money in your restaurant or your business. I want you to open on Sundays because I want to make more money. Well, when you're privately owned, you don't have to answer to stockholders. And you can say, we want to be closed on Sunday, we're closed on Sunday. Okay? So just something to keep in mind if you grow a huge business and the temptation to go public. I think private gives you more freedom and more control over your creation. But, so it's still privately owned. And the reason people haven't heard of WinShape is because it's not like the American Cancer Society or any of these others. They're great organizations, but they're always fundraising, and they're always trying to get funds, and they're always trying to get money, and that's why you know about them. It's a great cause. But WinShape is fully funded by the Cathy family. So the millions and millions of dollars that they spend every year for camps and trips and all of these things that go on, it's just the generosity of the Cathy family. Okay? But to answer your question, Ms. Wheeler, like the mission trips, that's only staff and operators. But the camps, the foster homes, a lot of the other things, that's open. That's an influence thing for the community. And just like with the camps, they used to only be in Atlanta, and they realized they're such great camps and so impactful on kids' lives. They're like, we need to take this out to other people. So last year they had 195 summer camps all around the country, so they can increase their influence. So.
Any in this area?
Yeah, so we have, this summer will be our third camp here. Last year it was at Heritage Church of Christ, right on Heritage Trace, just down from our restaurant. They have great facilities, gym, a lot of outdoor areas. But, and that's, they have two divisions. You guys might be a little too old. They have a first grade through 6th grade, and then they have a 6th grade through 9th grade. And the 6th grade through 9th grade is obviously geared toward that age. But it's a week-long day camp. Yeah. Other questions though about Chick-fil-A or Truett? Okay, perfect, all right. So I told you a little story about my venture in 11 years with Chick-fil-A. It was kind of birthed out of the thought of just wanting to own my own business. I will say this, for me personally, I don't know where you are, in your relationship, your spiritual relationship or anything, but it was definitely an answered prayer for me. I had prayed, my wife and I prayed for probably a year and a half on the new direction. It was definitely an answered prayer for us. We were already Chick-fil-A fans, but didn't know much about knew nothing about the restaurant industry. Had no restaurant background, no food background at all. But it's definitely an answered prayer. God led us and directed us to Chick-fil-A. The process, if y'all just, I know I don't want it to only be about Chick-fil-A. I want it to be about owning a business and entrepreneurial mindset. But the process took me about 18 months. So from the time I turned in my application, interviews, all the things that you have to go through, it was about an 18-month process. And that's about standard for Chick-fil-A. Sometimes maybe 15 months, sometimes 24 months, but that's a good average. I was at Hewlin Mall. Anybody ever lived down on the south side of Fort Worth? No? I was at Hewlin Mall for about 4 years. That was my first franchise location, and then had the wonderful opportunity to move up here to the Alliance area, like I said, 7 years ago, and open Alliance. And then Presidio, we always wanted to be multi-restaurant, but just never knew the opportunity would present itself this quickly and so conveniently and so close to Alliance, but opened Presidio a year and a half ago. All right. Any thoughts?
Okay, so you opened Alliance.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you turned around, how many years later? And opened
About 5.5.
Okay, so how were they doing? Since you're so close to each other.
Yeah, they're doing well. So Alliance, this area, as you guys know, if you've lived in this area, it's very heavily populated, and so the Alliance location was much needed. Watauga was the only store kind of in the area, and so it really took off very quickly. And grew rapidly. So Chick-fil-A felt the need. So we did have an impact. So that's something to think about, if you open second locations or third locations. It was a significant impact on Alliance. Probably 20% of our sales dropped off. But The interesting thing about building new stores, if you pick correct locations and you're thoughtful about it, overall, the volume went up about 40%. So we just didn't take 20% from Alliance and put it over at Presidio, and that's all they did. We actually got new business at Presidio, and we believe we got some new business at Alliance. People may not have come to Alliance because it was so busy. It's always crowded, the line's long, so I won't go. Well, when we relieved some of that pressure, we had some people maybe backfill. So overall, the company grew about 40%. And Chick-fil-A has seen that if they pick a good strategic location, one location is impacted short term, but overall, the business grows. So we had about a 40% jump the first year, and then the second year it's continued to grow. So they're doing well. Yes, ma'am.
When you were looking at going into a business, how did you decide to do a franchise versus starting?
That's a great question. Thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't have it on my topics, but that is a great question. So as this process was working through in my mind, the desire was there, but I didn't know what I was going to do, and I had never done it. So again, through prayer and a lot of thought and consideration, I talked to other people. I actually created a list of two different lists. I said, if I own my own business, I'd already had 15 years in the corporate world, so I kind of knew what that looked like. But if I own my own business, these are things I would like to be able to accomplish or have access or be able to do. So I listed those down. Very simple things like, hey, you know what? I have insurance over here in the corporate world. What do I do about my insurance for my family if I'm private, if I'm an owner? Where does that come from? So lots of basic things, but I've made that list. I also said, well, if it doesn't work and I end up going to another company, what would I want to do differently working for someone else? So I had two lists there, which I think was a great exercise. It really caused me to think what my goals were, what I'd like to accomplish, things of that nature. So I think setting goals and doing those exercises is always great. What's amazing, and to me, again, I'm a believer, so I say this is a God thing. Once I got into Chick-fil-A, learned all about their details and all the things they had, I was able to check off both lists. It's amazing. So I felt like it was definitely an easy answer at that point. Does that kind of answer your question? Or yeah. So
as a franchise then,
yes, ma'am.
I know y'all have to follow a lot of the corporate side, but how much freedom do you have on that?
Good question. The question was, we have to follow guidelines, but how much freedom? Now, I can't speak to other franchises. I will say this, Chick-fil-A is unique. Okay? What I have found is when the industry or the companies other than Chick-fil-A are doing this, Chick-fil-A does the opposite. Hey, we're going to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hey, we're closing on Sundays, and we're closing at 10 o'clock at night. Just all the things they do, it's kind of different, 180 degrees different than the rest of the industry. So Chick-fil-A has a saying, as a franchisee, hey, you're going to be in business by yourself. Be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So they do have their requirements. We're closed on Sunday. Hey, don't sell hamburgers. We're only selling chicken. Stick to the menu. So it's really more around and that's only for protecting the brand, so that there's consistency in the brand, and it protects the brand. But past that, they really give you full freedom to make day-to-day decisions in the restaurant, whether that's staffing and personnel, policies and procedures, wage rates, everything that we do, they allow the franchisee to make 100% of those decisions. They'll tell you several times through the training process, it's your money. So you make decisions according to your business. If you're a big marketer and you love marketing and you want to spend 5% of your revenue on marketing every year, spend it. If you only want to spend 1%, it's okay. It's your money. So it's great as a business owner because you have the support of a large corporation who's done it. They know, they're experts, but they give you full autonomy to make your own decisions. And hey, if you want our advice, ask us and we'll tell you. So, it's unique. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that that is very different from those franchises, or is that pretty common in?
You know, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I think the level of support that Chick-fil-A gives is hands down different and better than what I've heard of other franchise locations. They are in business. They actually call the home office the support center. They're in business to support business owners. That's what they do. And Truett would say, if you're not selling chicken, you better be helping somebody who is. And so everybody at the home office is like, I'm helping that local owner make their business better. And I think that's one of the key differences. I don't know this for a fact, but I think most most corporations, they're like, what's in it for us and how's this going to benefit us? Okay, that's the right decision for us corporately. If it helps them, great. Or if it hurts them, we're sorry, but that's what we have to do. Chick-fil-A's decision is it going to help them? Great, we'll do it. Is it going to hurt them? Okay, we're not going to do that. So they do think about it from an owner's perspective first. And that's refreshing. Yes, ma'am.
How expensive is it to finance your franchise, and what does that fee get you? And then you need much startup capital other than that initial
Yeah. Again, Chick-fil-A does everything totally different. So I don't know exact numbers, but I know I've heard, hey, if you want to buy a McDonald's franchise, you're $1 million, $2 million up front. And again, they're kind of like, hey, you need to pay us $1.5 million before we even talk to you. Other franchises, $500,000, $750,000. Some that are just new, that are starting, that aren't really developed yet, and it's still this outrageous amount of money up front. So Truett knew that he wanted to grow this. He knew he had the opportunity to grow this with this great sandwich, and he never wanted money to be an issue. He wanted great business partners. He knew, I'm in Atlanta, I can only run 1 or 2 restaurants myself. I've got to have great business partners, but I know there's great business partners out there that don't have tons of money. So I don't want that to be the problem. So Chick-fil-A is completely different. The franchise fee for Chick-fil-A is $10,000. That's it. Yeah. So, which sounds like a lot, but in the franchise world, it's nothing. Now,
Nothing.
yeah. Now the unique difference is whereas in McDonald's maybe you spend $2 million, you actually own the building and the equipment, and when you decide to retire in 30 years, you could sell that. Or you could give it to your children or whatever. Chick-fil-A is different in that we lease the building and lease the property and the equipment. So every month I have a monthly expense for property, lease, a building rental, equipment rental. So they're like, hey, you know what? So today, it's about $4 million to build a restaurant, a Chick-fil-A restaurant. They're like, we'll take care of that. We'll select the property, and they do a good job of picking real estate. We'll build the building. We'll give you all the best equipment that we can possibly give you, but we own it, and we'll just charge you a lease. So that is the one difference about it. It's very low cost to get in, but I can't sell it 30 years from now. I essentially give it back to Chick-fil-A when I decide to retire. They actually give me my $10,000 back, and then they go find another owner. So, but it allows someone like me with not a huge amount of capital to open a well-established business and well-established brand and get my business started. As far as what they look at, your personal earnings or your net worth or anything like that, they do look at that. I don't think there's an exact threshold, but what they're interested in is, have you been a good steward of what you currently have? Because they feel like if you've managed your personal finances well, you've made good business decisions around that, you'll continue to do that in your Chick-fil-A business. So that's a good thing to remember, guys. It's decisions that you're making today or decisions that you'll make when you're 20 or 22 around finances and things like that. You got to be thinking long term, because there may be a situation where someone's in and they had to do some things financially and a franchise like Chick-fil-A or others may look at that and say, well, they haven't managed themselves well personally, financially, and so we're concerned that they will do that in the restaurant. Okay, so things that you're making, decisions you're making today will affect things in the future.
So what we're hearing you say is not just anybody can own a Chick-fil-A franchise.
Correct, yeah, it's a big vetting process.
Okay.
Not a lot of capital up front, but they want, again, Truett wanted a great business partner, and so he was more interested in that relationship, and was this the right person to go into business with? So, okay. Other questions? Any questions from the class? Okay. So a couple of questions for you, and I do want feedback here, so I'm going to force y'all to say something. Because I think when, yeah, tell me on time.
We're good. We're good.
Yeah. Ms. Wheeler had said, you know, hey, we just want you to come and talk, and you know, your Chick-fil-A's have been successful, and they have, and I don't take any credit for that. I always want to acknowledge the Lord in that He's blessed us and given us this opportunity. But the question is, what do you guys, how do y'all define success? And this is where I want feedback here.
I would say like being successful, like you're happy with what you're doing.
Okay?
It's not necessarily like the money, I mean, money's great, but I think that's a big difference between being rich and being wealthy.
Yeah, that's good. She said being happy with what you're doing. Okay? I think that's awesome. That's great wisdom there. Okay? Other thoughts? Anyone? I wish I knew names. I'd call them.
Point at them. Point at them.
Anybody thought it can be anything. There's not necessarily a wrong or right answer. Generally, anyone over here?
Elena.
Oh yeah, I do know one name. Elena.
Being content with your actions.
Being content? Yeah. Okay. All right. I think the, you know, if you ask 100 people, you'll probably get 100 different answers. But I think, and what was your name?
Layla.
Layla. I think Layla's on a good thing. Lena had a good point too. It's not always, I think the world will say it's a certain amount of wealth, it's a certain amount of status or stature or position. And yes, it could be those things, but ultimately I think whether you have those different levels or attain those positions or whatever, it's enjoying what you do, and it's going to look different for every single person. Being successful to one might say, hey, I own a business, and that business allows me the freedom to spend a lot of time with my family and raise kids. It allows me to be in my community and influence others and do things like that. And I'm very content and very happy with where I'm at financially or position or whatever. So I think that's a good exercise for you guys to kind of work through, is what would success look like in my life when I'm 20, 30, 40, things of that nature. That helps you clarify kind of your direction and your path. But I will say, if it's only the pursuit of money, only the pursuit of wealth or things, that's going to leave you empty. At some point, you're going to realize that's not what it's all about. Okay? And I think Truett got that right from the very beginning. It wasn't his heart. He wanted to influence people and affect people and have an impact. And it just so happened that in that process, Chick-fil-A grew to where it is today. But I'll tell you this, the Cathy family, so I know all the Cathys. Truett and his wife, she passed away about a year after he did. I know their 3 kids who are kind of running the company now. I know their grandkids, or their kids who are 3rd generation. You would never know that they're the Cathys. You would never know that they have this $8 billion a year company. The way they dress, the way they talk, the way they interact with people, they're genuine and sincere, and it's not about those material things. So Okay, so anyway, I think it's a good exercise for you to kind of determine what success looks like for you. A few other points I just want to mention to you. I put down 4 critical C's in your pursuit, whether it be owning your own business or being a part of a corporation or whatever, wherever life leads you. 4 critical C's in your pursuit. And first of all is be a person of character. Okay? Be a person of character. Integrity. What you say is what you do. You are real and genuine, whether you're in the public, whether you're at home, in everything that you do. Truett had his favorite verse was in Proverbs. It was his life verse, and he lived this at his funeral. This was on his memorial. It said, "A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches." And he actually selected that in school. He told the story once. School, he was 7 years old. His teacher said, "I want everybody to go home, look through the Bible, and pick a verse that will be your life verse." And he chose, "A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches." And he lived his life that way. And what's amazing is he had this amazing reputation and amazing character about him that everybody admired and respected. But he also ended up being a man of wealth and means. Okay, but his priority was a good name. So be a person of character. Always do the right thing. I believe all of us, it's just innate in us, we know right and wrong. We know in every situation what the right decision is and what the wrong decision is. I'm guilty. Many times I've made that wrong decision for selfish reasons or whatever, but we know what's right. Even my 4-year-old, he knows what's right. Okay? So always make the right decision and always do the right thing. Sometimes it's costly, sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes you're going to go against the norm. You're going to go against the counsel of others. "I don't do that." That's, but in your heart, you'll know that you're doing the right thing. Okay? So be a person of character. I think that will benefit you well in your business. Be committed. Okay? Truett, I mentioned, was persistent. If you've got that vision and you've got that dream, as a business owner, you have to be the one committed to that. There'll be lots of obstacles, lots of challenges, difficult days. I had no gray hair when I started with Chick-fil-A, and they laugh because y'all are too young to even think about gray hair. But within about a year and a half, boy, it just started fast because there's a lot of difficulties and a lot of challenges. But be committed to it and do your best every day in that. All right, be conscientious. I think this is a great skill. I try to teach our team members this. Somebody give me what you think the definition of conscientious is. Anyone? Yes, sir.
Aware of your actions.
Aware of your actions. Okay, that's good. I like that. Very simple. Aware of your actions. Anybody else? Okay, so I looked this up for my team members once. And this was actually Webster's definition. To be very careful to do what you're supposed to do and concerned about doing it correctly. And I thought, man, that's a game changer. If I can get every person in my restaurant and my organization to be very careful about doing what they're supposed to do and concerned about doing it correctly, that changes our whole business. Okay? So I always tell people, not even in work, but in life, try to be conscientious. Okay? If you're a conscientious individual and you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're concerned about doing it correctly, trust me, your teachers will notice, the administrators will notice, professors at college will notice, your first employer will notice, and all of a sudden things will just begin to happen, and they're like, "I don't know what she has." I keep pointing to you, sorry, you're just in the right spot. "I don't know what she has, but man, she's our star. Hey, can you take on a new responsibility? Hey, we want to promote you. Hey, we want to give you this new opportunity," because she's always conscientious. Okay? So be a person of character, be committed to your dreams and your values, be conscientious. And then I put down this. Chemistry. That's actually a Chick-fil-A word that we use, chemistry. It's about relationships. Okay? Everything that we do, any type of work that you do, any type of business, any type of organization, we work with other people, don't we? And life is about relationships. So work on developing that in your own life. that you can work well with others, that you can lead others well, and that you have that chemistry. That's one thing that Chick-fil-A looks for, is chemistry in their owners. Will this person be able to connect with their community, with their team, with those people out in the world around them, and develop relationships? Because life at its core is about relationships. Okay? All right, so those are 4 C's for you. Any thoughts or questions on those? Sorry that I'm not back here. I have to turn around for y'all. Yes, ma'am.
That's great that you brought that up. We spent quite a bit of time at the beginning of the year talking about being successful in any career or job, whether it be being an entrepreneur or working for someone. So you said 4 C's, because we talked quite a bit about work ethic. We talked about your attitude. We talked about those skills that you need to be successful in the workplace.
Yeah.
So what do you see as being one of the biggest skills that high schoolers really need to work on and make sure they have once they graduate from high school?
Yeah.
I mean, because I know you employ teenagers at your
Correct.
locations, I'm sure, high
Yeah.
schoolers. So what are you looking for?
For us, of course, the industry we're in, we're very customer facing all day long. I think what we look at initially in interviews is that personality and that social skill, that ability to connect, that ability to smile, and to, because we feel like if they do that in the interview, they'll do that when they work, and that's a big part of what Chick-fil-A does. So, and I tell them, the social aspect, those relationships, that is some people have it, honestly, more naturally than others. Yeah, whether that's upbringing or just their personality, they have that. But it is a skill that you can develop and that you can learn and that you can strengthen. And I tell them, if you can learn that and you can learn to interact with people and have those great relationships and those conversations, no matter what you do in life, that will help you. That will be a benefit to you. Secondly, I think it goes back to being conscientious. Those are best of the best team, whether they're high school, college, or whatever, are those team members that are conscientious. They understand it, and they do not require a lot of hands-on watching. We're able to give them some assignments and responsibilities, and they do it not just today, they do it every day. Initiative, yeah, they take that initiative. Very simple. If you saw that empty bottle on the ground and you were walking into work, what should you do? Pick it up, because it's trash, and we don't want our parking lot looking trash, so you should pick that up. Well, the team member that just walks by on their phone and just walks by trash, we're like, okay, you're not being conscientious in those efforts. You did mention work ethic. And ethics kind of goes back to your character as well. Truett had a saying, I love saying this. He said, there are no business ethics. There are only personal ethics. You can't have 2 sets. Well, when I'm at home and when I'm with my friends, this is who I am. But in work, I do this because it's work, and I can make these decisions and I can do these things. No, there's one set of values and one set of ethics, and that covers work, personal, all your relationships and everything. So, okay? Yes, ma'am.
2 questions.
Yes, ma'am.
1, how many hours would you say you put in a week with your breakdowns? And then 2, what's the most personal rewarding?
Now, as far as hours go, it is different. So when I first started, again, no restaurant experience, I worked a lot. A lot. I think really now that, my initial thought was when I first started, I wanted to grow these businesses, and and that still is at our heart. We still have goals that we set every year, but I enjoy when guests come in and compliment our team. I mean, more than, I'm like a proud parent, you know? When someone stops me and says, hey, I just need to tell you what John did. It was amazing. You know, it just warms my heart because it's what Chick-fil-A is about, and we're doing something that impacts people. And it impacts them enough that they feel like they should stop us and tell us. And so and that happens frequently. And then again, it's not a pat on my back, it's our team. But that's rewarding, and it just makes you feel good because your team is doing what they should and what Chick-fil-A stands for, and our guests appreciate it. But along with that, it's just the satisfaction of owning your own business and seeing things grow, and creating a new process and seeing it work, and making changes here and seeing things grow and develop. That gives you that freedom to do those things every day and make those kind of decisions. Work with my leadership team, and they have an idea, and we're like, hey, let's implement that. And 6 months later, we're like, wow, that was amazing. Look what we've done and been able to accomplish. Those are rewarding pieces. So, other thoughts? Yes, ma'am. A question.
It's a little.
I wish I had something I could give you, you know?
No, it's a little off topic to what you guys are saying, but which restaurant, like food chain, do you think is the biggest competitor for Chick-fil-A, and how is their operation different in yours, but also similar?
Yeah, that's a good question. So she said, which is our restaurant chain's our biggest competitor, or who do we look at? Chick-fil-A, and we say this very humbly, even though we're in the quick service segment, probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, we stopped looking at the McDonald's and the Wendy's, and we said, you know what? They're fast food. Okay, we're fast casual. And so we look at Panera, we look at Chipotle, we look at some that are kind of in that. They're not a full service sit down restaurant, like a Chili's or a BJ's or something like that, but they're also not quick service. So we feel like we found that middle ground that we don't say this rudely, we just don't really, we still watch McDonald's and Wendy's. We still watch, see if they're doing something that's innovative, but we don't really put ourselves as competitors with them because we feel like we have a different niche. We meet a different need in the market. But we're always, and I think it's great wisdom to always be looking at competitors, always be looking at other people, whatever your industry is, and seeing what's new and what's developing. I'll talk about this in just a second, but you know, being that visionary where you're seeing what's happening 5 years from now, and should we be working on that right now? Mobile, you know, everybody's mobile now, and almost every restaurant you can do mobile ordering. Well, we were on that 2 or 3 years ago. So you always need to be out front looking around. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but yeah. So.
That kind of led into a question I have, and I know Elena's got a question. Are you going to talk about the future being a quick casual restaurant? You know, what do you see as the future, in particular Chick-fil-A as well as the whole market? You know?
Yeah. I think what Chick-fil-A is looking at, and actually it's funny, I just watched a video about this yesterday. You know, 10 years ago, it was focusing on our menu and focusing on what we offered as far as food. Then we feel like we really kind of led the industry in the next big thing, and that was service. You know, how do we change the service? It's not just about you getting a sandwich. It's about an experience. It's about how you're treated. And we feel like, humbly, we kind of led that charge of like that's what people really want. People want to be treated kindly and enjoy their visit and greeted with a smile, and again, about relationships. So that service part is always evolving, and we have a whole service and hospitality team at the home office, and that's all they do. And trust me, everybody at the home office is a lot smarter than I am. They're all like high level educated, and they go to work every day just to try to see what can we do different? How can we make that better? So that's always going to be evolving. I think mobile platforms, and then Chick-fil-A is working real big on outside of the restaurant. Are there opportunities for us to go serve people, not just with catering, but with other pop-up concepts and other things that are outside, because it's a big process and very costly to build a restaurant.
Right.
But can we take the restaurant out and serve people? So I think that's probably what's next on their target. But they're always thinking and always, and that's a great point, guys. I think if you ever become satisfied with the status quo and you're like, look, we can just ride and we can just sit here, someone will pass you very quickly. And there are, y'all probably talked about it, the list of companies that used to be huge, not just in food, but in any type of industry, who don't even exist anymore. And 40 years ago, they were like the leader in their industry. And everybody thought they'll never go away. And now you've never even heard of some of these people because they shut their doors and closed up. That's probably from, we're fine, we're huge, we don't have to change, we don't have to evolve. And so you always need to have that concept. We call it continuous improvement, where we're always trying to figure out what's next and how we do something better. So, Lane?
This is kind of off topic, but anytime someone says thank you, I've noticed that they say my pleasure.
Yeah.
Was that your decision because of your last name, or was
Oh.
it the company's decision?
I like that. Yeah, Chick-fil-A would not appreciate it if I took credit for that. That'd be pretty awesome, though. No, my pleasure came from Truett. Actually visited a Ritz-Carlton, which I don't know if y'all know Ritz-Carlton. It's a 5-star hotel, very nice, years ago, and that's what they said at Ritz-Carlton was my pleasure. You know, thank you, it's my pleasure. And he liked that. And he brought that back to Chick-fil-A. He actually started it, introduced that in 2002, before I was even with the company. And he said, I'm not letting this go. This is going to be part of our culture. And it took several years, but now Chick-fil-A, that's one thing we're known for, is my pleasure. And what's neat and what's fun is that a lot of other companies and a lot of other businesses are doing that. And we think that's great. I mean, because it's nice. You know, if you genuinely mean that, I think it's wonderful. So, you know, if we can influence people that way, of course we took it from Ritz, but if we can influence people, I think that's a good thing. So. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that being a privately owned company makes it harder to go international?
I would think only from the side of funding, because it's an expensive venture to just have all that. The biggest thing that we struggle with right now is because we're such a high quality company as far as food, is how do we get our food and how do we maintain that quality trying to get stuff to London or Paris. So I think privately owned allows you all the freedom in the world to do things on your own timeline and the way you want them done and make your own decisions. It's just corporately, I mean, from a investment side, you know, McDonald's has more funds probably to make that happen. But that's not always the best thing to me, because they may make quick decisions, they may make wrong decisions just to make it happen faster. And so Chick-fil-A is, Truett always say, no goal is too high if you climb with care and confidence. And so we'll get there, but we're going to make sure we do it right. And if that takes 5 years, great. If it takes 10 years, that's fine. But when it's done, it'll be done right, and it'll be successful. So. Okay, just a few other things. I won't keep y'all too long. A few other things. Primary responsibilities of a business owner, whether you're franchised or not. My feelings, the list could be long, it could be short, but I think the very first thing, primary responsibility of you as a business owner, is to be the vision caster for your business. And y'all may have talked about that before. But you're the owner. You're the key person. You're the individual that everyone else in your organization is going to be looking to for that vision. Okay? So you have to have a clear idea of what your vision is for your company. And even though we're part of a bigger brand, Chick-fil-A, you know, every restaurant has a vision of what they want their restaurant to be and how they want to connect and how they want to grow and all those things. So be the vision caster for your business. Another big thing is create your culture and then work on strengthening that culture. Culture is huge in any organization. It doesn't have to be business. It could be a student organization or whatever. But the culture that you have in that organization changes everything. Chick-fil-A has an amazing corporate culture. And we spend 6 weeks at training when we become operators, and you're immersed in this culture of Chick-fil-A. And it's refreshing, and it's different, and it's amazing. I've asked before for the home office, would they ever grow to a size where they would start having regional offices, maybe Dallas and LA, and they said right now no, and the reason they gave me no was because culture. When we're all at 5200 Buffington in Atlanta, and the Cathys are walking up and down the halls, we can keep culture. And everybody who comes and works at the home office learns this culture, and then they take it out with them. So cast your vision for your team, create your culture, and then develop leaders. Okay? Even though you're a business owner, if you want to grow and you want to expand, which I think you would in that capacity, you will not be able to do it all on your own. If you think you will, eventually you'll get to a point where you cap yourself and your business stops growing and you're stressed out and you're working way too hard. And once you cap your business and cap your growth potential, you're either becoming stagnant or you're going to start declining. So the ability to develop leaders in our restaurant, so we see somebody and we're like, hey, John's an emerging leader. Let's see what we can do to develop him and help him grow and help him learn. I think if you do that, you will have people come up beside you who can help lead and help do things. They have skills and talents you don't have. They have abilities that are stronger than yours. Let them do those things. Okay? So I think that's probably my 3 key. Okay? Any thoughts? I know that was a lot, so I appreciate y'all listening and staying so attentive. I was talking, but any other thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I was right now just thinking, like in the beginning of a lot of years ago, why did you decide like to put like all of those stuff like in McDonald's when you buy a Happy Meal they give you a toy, and that's why like I think that McDonald's is so successful because all of the kids like actually me when I was a kid the only thing that I go to McDonald's was for the toy, not for the burger.
Yeah.
But now that I come here, I really enjoy Chick-fil-A because of the food, even if they don't have the toys. So
Correct.
my question is, do you think that the owner thought about that and he decided just to do that thing just for copying McDonald's, or what do you think
Yeah.
was the reason?
So our question is, like McDonald's, if you go buy a Happy Meal, you usually get a toy. And normally that toy is wrapped around the latest movie or the latest thing that's coming out. And so Chick-fil-A made a very conscientious decision years ago. And this leads me into our purpose statement. But they wanted to have a positive influence on everybody. And so kids are a big part of our market, and we have lots of kids. And so they said, look, we could do that. Not necessarily copying, but we could do kind of the quick and easy thing, but is it always the best thing to give a 4-year-old or 6-year-old? Why don't we do some things that are educational? Why don't we do some things that will help them grow, maybe help them develop character skills? We've done several toys and several activities over the years that are family oriented that kind of say, hey, if you'll do this around the dinner table, play this card game, play this. It helps build relationships. So they really wanted to use that small piece of a kid's meal toy to help develop that child, or to help them read, or to help them. We did language CDs, and you could get like French and Spanish, and you could actually get CDs where they would help you learn different languages. And so we just want to use that as an opportunity to influence somebody.
I remember I always traded my toy in for ice cream.
Yeah, or you can always trade your toy in for ice cream. That's right. Yeah. So be fed, or So, and that's a great point. I did not share this earlier, but the influence piece. So, I told you guys about being a vision caster and setting your culture and those things. But above all of that, whether it's your personal life or your business life, I think it'd be a great exercise for you to write a purpose statement. A purpose statement. And that's your big picture, overall Why am I here? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And that gives you clarity and gives you some direction on decisions that you make in your life. This is my purpose. This is what I want at the end of my life, to be able to look back and say I was able to accomplish this purpose. So Chick-fil-A did not have that for years. And back in the mid-'80s, early 80s I think, they actually sat down, the Cathy family and other people on their executive team, and said, we need to write a purpose statement because we're growing and we're building lots of buildings and we're hiring lots of people, but why are we doing all this? And so they came up with a purpose statement, and it's been Chick-fil-A's guiding decision maker and kind of light ever since that day. And their purpose statement simply says this: to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that's entrusted to us, and to have a positive influence on all who come into contact with Chick-fil-A. And I don't know about y'all, but that's pretty solid. That's pretty amazing. I've written personal purpose statements, and I keep going back, can I just use that? Because that's a great thing. They want to glorify God, so hey, we're closed on Sundays, we're making right decisions, we're treating people the right way. We want to be a good steward, which is a manager. We have lots of resources, lots of buildings, and lots of people, and lots of influence, and so we want to do that right. Always make good decisions there. And then every single person that comes into contact with Chick-fil-A, our guests, our team members, our vendors, everyone, we want to have a positive influence. And that kind of gets back to the toys. Hey, let's have a positive influence on people. Okay? And Chick-fil-A, and I can say this with 100% confidence, if they're making a decision and it doesn't line up with that purpose statement, they don't do it. No matter what the potential financial gains may be, they don't do it. And that's them being true to their values and true to their beliefs and true to their purpose. So, okay, any other thoughts? Okay. Well, I appreciate y'all very much. Thanks for your time and your attentiveness.
One question.
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you think the next Chick-fil-A location will be in the
Ah.
area?
Yeah, that's a good question. The actual next one, and I know it's a little far south, but it's in Saginaw.
Okay.
So that'll be in April of next year. At Bailey Boswell, there's a new Kroger and some new development down there. It's going to be in that intersection area. I know the owner, she's super nice, grew up in the Metroplex, and she'll do well. From here, kind of north, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
They're always looking.
Go toward Denton,
Yeah.
Raceway, all that.
Well, the one did open at Champions, so
Oh, that's
one opened
right.
right by Buc-ee's.
Okay, yes,
Um,
okay.
So they're always looking, and they always have real estate people kind of on the ground and looking for the next opportunity. And that, again, there's so many thoughts here. That's a great point, because Chick-fil-A, again, wise decisions, they don't just go and build a restaurant here. They think about it, they analyze, and if it's not right, they won't build it. They'll say, you know what, we're going to wait. So they exercise great patience in their decisions. And sometimes I've seen them purchase a property and then say, you know what, we thought next year would be great, but it's just not ready. It's too green right there. We need to let everything develop and people move in, so we're going to hold. And they'll wait for 2 or 3 more years and open it when they're ready. So wisdom and patience and making good decisions like that is always beneficial. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Thank y'all very much.